All right, guys, welcome back to the Short Story Long podcast. I'm your host, Sam Derrickson, joined by my co-host, Andrew Dial.
What's up, guys?
And we're back for another episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, please share this podcast with someone you think might enjoy it. We'd like to get this podcast a little bit more reach, get it out to a few more people. So also, if you would like to email us or get a hold of us, we're on Facebook, and also askaskstorylong@gmail.com. So just roll right into this episode. I think we're going to talk about selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace and otherwise. Got a few stories for you as well as some tips and tricks. But first, I've got a few emails I'd like to read. So thanks, guys, for emailing in. One is from Travis Woods. He's a coworker of mine.
Yes, I have a funny story about that, by the way.
So after this email, I'll let you tell your story. Good dude. Travis Woods here. Just want to say keep up the good work. Just listened to episode 4 and it was fantastic. Love hearing stories about the cars and the people and dads behind all the madness. Since you mentioned your love for burnouts and threatening your CDL, maybe talk a little bit about getting pulled over and how you did or didn't get away with it, LOL. And I said, hey, glad you're enjoying it. Are you elaborate a little bit, like what kind of episode are you suggesting? And he says, just dealer's choice. I enjoy all stories about getting pulled over. Being pulled over for burnouts would be icing on the cake. And knock on wood, I have not been pulled over for a burnout that I can recall. So maybe we could do an episode in the future about like what's your getting pulled over story, maybe, or add it.
I've been with you twice when you got pulled over. I know.
Yes, you were. Well, in the vehicle once, and then
no, I was in the vehicle twice.
Okay, well, we'll have to save that for whatever episode that is.
So when we were at the hospital in your Dodge truck, and you told the officer to enlighten you.
What? I don't remember.
Do you know why I pulled you over? You go, enlighten me.
Oh, that was a Jeff Derrickson comment for sure.
You had clearly ran a stop sign, which is not why he pulled you over. I don't think it was something else.
Okay.
But and then leaving the Gabby Go, you swerved into the other lane because you were just driving like an idiot. And I was like, whatever you do, don't tell me you're putting your seatbelt on, because my brother got a ticket pulling out of O'Reilly's, went into the other lane. He said, well, I was just putting my seatbelt on. They said, well, you're supposed to have your seatbelt on before you leave, and gave him a ticket. And so I told you, I was like, don't tell me you were putting a seatbelt on. We got pulled over. He goes, what were you doing? He's swerving. You're like, I was just putting my seatbelt on. I'm like, what the hell?
That sounds like something I would do.
I was like, I literally told him. The guy's like, well, you should have had your seatbelt on already. And of course, Sam's like mouthing off like, oh, what you going to do about it? And like, well, we're going to jail. And he's like, your windshield's broke? Yep. No ticket either time. All 3 times I've been with you pulled over. No ticket.
Thank the Lord, baby Jesus. So tell me your Travis Woods story.
Well, it's just, I wasn't even there. So anything I say is just word of mouth and me elaborating. And we had cut out a metal sign for him through our sign business. And I wasn't there, but he came and picked it up. And he said, yeah, I work with Sam. And the conversation got going about, oh, well, they got a podcast. Have you heard of it? He's like, oh, yeah, I'm a big fan. I listen to every episode. I'm sure my wife was just rolling her eyes. My dang husband, I was like, how's it feel, honey?
Quit encouraging him, I'm sure basically. She was thinking.
I was like, how's it feel? She's like, what do you mean, how's it feel? I was like, people know you because of my podcast.
Oh, my God.
And she's just like,
Save it. Yeah,
basically.
Well, thanks, Travis.
So we appreciate you.
Huge
appreciate
shout
you, pumping me up to my wife. So
he needs all the help he can get there. So I got another one here from John Russell. He was... in response to the episode 5 for how to get a deal on Marketplace tips. Okay. He said, the deals are out there and you would think cash is king, but man, I've lost out on a few amazing deals because of online money transfers like Venmo, etc. So I totally would agree with him here because he sent me a really, really good deal on a Roadrunner that he found. And he was like, hey, I'd like to come and see it. I'll get there whatever day. And, I don't remember exactly the whole situation, but someone, he was asking 10 grand for it, and the dude got a Venmo for 11 grand, like in 15 minutes. Cause it was a $20,000 car or whatever, but, anyway, so,
That does make sense. I can see that.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. But he said, on the flip side, when I bought my Chevelle, my wife asked me how much money I was pulling out of the bank. I said none, and her head almost exploded. You mean to tell me you have that kind of money just laying around? She was a little pissed, but now she accepts that I always have quote-unquote swap meet money just in case I come across a great deal. So my tip is, if there's a chance you're going to need a second driver and it's your wife, maybe let them know that you have some extra money tucked away. I'm not saying tell them you've been hiding money, but maybe that you've been quote-unquote saving money for just such an occasion. So thanks for that tip, John. I would agree with you there.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because the shock factor is there, because it's happened with me with my girlfriend too. She's like, excuse me? Like, how much money did you pay for this? How much did this cost? Like, oh, it wasn't too much. And she's just always, she doesn't see the big picture. Like, Boss Man will say, it doesn't matter what you paid for it matters what you can sell it for. So, yes. I mean, if you're going to turn a profit, it doesn't really matter what you spend on it as long as you can turn that profit. So.
Well, I remember the first couple times, I'm the type of guy, if I find a deal, I'll leave work and go get it. And my wife will go to work that morning, especially when we've worked together the last 2 years, but when we used to not work together, she'd come home from work and there'd be a new vehicle in the driveway. And she'd be like, I just really wish you would, you need to talk to your wife before you buy vehicles. I was like, honey, when it's a deal, there's no talking.
There's no time.
And I finally got her to the point where she's like, at least just give me a heads up so I don't come home and be surprised. Like, okay, I can do that. But
just so you know.
But like, I'm not asking you, like, because it's happening.
Yeah.
But if you want a heads up so you're not surprised when you get home, okay.
That's a good common ground.
So she's got to the point that I don't remember. We sold my red Jeep after buying my orange Jeep, and I said, should we put all this money in the bank? And she's like, well, put this much money in and keep this much money at home. We never know when you might find a deal. And I was like, now we're talking.
You're training her. Yes. You're training her. So that's an episode I'd like to do, like basically car guys and wives of car guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already invited my girlfriend to be on for that episode. She respectfully or disrespectfully declined, if that's a thing. But I think Laren's on board, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she would.
And I invited my girlfriend's mom to be on because she's married to a car guy and she is a car girl. And she raised a whole bunch of. She got 3 car girls in her family, and she's got almost as many cars as Gary has. And I mean, I think it'd be a cool dynamic to talk about, some of the old stories that she's got of, when they were doing car stuff when they were our age, and then what it's like just waking up in the morning and there's a new car in the driveway or whatever. So
yes,
that'd be a cool episode, but we gotta work on
that. That could happen, I'm sure.
We gotta work on having more guests down here. So
do we have Laren and Amanda's mom separately or in the same episode?
Same episode.
Okay.
Same episode. And then last one here is from Andrew Frinfrock. He says, great show, guys. Found it today and listened to the first 4 episodes in one day. Now, that's dedication.
I think I grew up next to Andrew Frinfrock.
So you got to be pretty dedicated or really bored. Either way, we appreciate you listening. He says, a thought for future discussion would be thinking in a general tool/equipment sense, what items do you think a person should bring along on a road trip or to a car show? Like specifically radar detector, jacks, hand tools, etc. Again, awesome show. Look forward to more episodes. So thank you, Mr. Andrew, for that feedback. That would be a really good episode. Andrew is currently writing that down as we speak to put on our list of stuff we want to talk about. I think that would be a fun one. Talk about stuff that we don't never leave home without or whatever. That would be a pretty cool episode. So
yeah, I think I grew up one street over from Andrew Frinfrock, and I do remember him always having some cool cars.
Yeah. So Andrew, if you're
4 years older than I am.
Yeah, Andrew, if you're listening to this, give us an email. Tell us how you met Dozer, and tell us about your car collection. That was
the fat little neighbor kid.
The fat little neighborhood. Yeah. So yeah, give us a shout. Tell us what kind of cars you have in your collection currently, or whatever.
Or if you want to be on the show.
Yeah, we'll have. I mean, I've got 2 extra mics sitting down here, just waiting on a guest. So. Let's just get into today's meat and potatoes. We're going to do tips for actually selling.
Yes, we've done tips on buying on Marketplace. We're going to do tips on selling on Marketplace.
Sounds good, because I have a truck right now that's not selling. And, I mean, what better way to help me do this podcast than by actually trying to sell something? So there's a lot of things here that we could go over, but we're just going to give you some brief, broad brushstrokes on this. Obviously, there's tons of room for nuances and things of that we can get a lot more detailed in, but we're going to give you the broad strokes. So what's your first one, Dose?
So the first one is less is more.
Okay. So elaborate on that a little bit.
I'm going to compare this. I learned this lesson selling my Ford Ranger. So instead of being vague, I was like, I'll just put all the info out there. It'll save all the questions. If someone's interested, they'll just buy it. And so if I remember correctly, it had a power steering pump whine. I put 2 new power steering pumps on it. They both whined. Apparently, that is a Ford thing. Ford power steering pumps.
You can hear it from a mile away. At least I can. I can hear it because I grew up with a Ford Windstar with the same power steering whine, and it's on every, I'd say, mid-90s to early 2000s Ford. Just something about their design. It just had a distinct whine to it.
And the throwout bearing made noise when you push the clutch in. It still worked and everything. It just kind of made a, or however, you know how the throwout bearings be.
Yeah.
So I put that in there, and the carpet was completely ruined in it. The person before me, I don't know what happened, but it was ruined. Mm-hmm. So I put carpet's ruined. I listed all those issues on there, had no hits at all, hardly. No hits at all.
Which,
and
in our opinion, there was too much information.
Right. I had another thought I was trying to write down here for this episode. We were talking about that, but maybe it'll come back to me.
So, anyway, basically what he's trying to get at is he listed all of these issues with the vehicle, and it basically turned off all the potential buyers because they started reading all this information and they were immediately turned off. And you've seen the ads on Facebook before. They list every little thing, like, I bought this and I did this with it and I did this with it, and then the mechanic said it needed this, and then I put tires on it, and then the oil change was last week. And it's just like you get sick of reading after too much.
Yeah, and I think they just discount it right away and like, oh, this has problems next.
Yep.
So I think it was Cody or maybe you was like, you need to put less information. Mm-hmm. So I took all the information off, put all the just good on there, made it real vague. And I'm not saying lie to people. If people ask, tell them, or you can tell them right away. And this guy from Indianapolis or Terre Haute or something messaged me. That's the first question. Does it have any issues? Yes. Power steering pump whines. Throwout bearing makes a little noise. The clutch was new, but throwout bearing makes a noise. And carb is ruined. Yep, not a big deal. All Fords make power steering whine noise. I don't care about the carpet. Throwout bearings, whatever. I want it. And that was like the first person that talked to me about it after that. And that was after maybe a month of having it for sale.
Yep.
So I would say the less is more as far as at least bad news goes, maybe even good news.
So I'm trying to think now, going back. I don't remember who was selling something, but it was almost laborious to read the whole ad because it was like, this is new. I replaced this. I replaced this. I replaced this. This needs some attention. This will be good for another so-and-so. The interior is this color. The radio is this. The seats are this. The tires are this. The wheels are this. It's got this. It's got that. And it's like 27 lines of all these features. And it was to the point where people would just stop reading the ad before they got down to the bottom where it said you're flexible on price and you want $5,000 or whatever for it. And I don't remember, like I said, who was selling it, but it was like, don't put all that information in the ad. Just put basically the bare minimum and say it's in good shape and has lots of new parts. You don't have to say every new part you put on it. Just say lots of new parts. If the guy cares, he'll message you. What new parts does it have? And then you can get specific with him, because the communication in the actual, seller to buyer communication, the more you can put in there, the more the buyer is likely to, believe what you have to say and trust you as a seller.
Right. And I think, too, the more questions they have to ask, the more you talk, the more invested they get in this. And like, well, I've already talked to this dude this long, I might as well go look at it.
Whether it's intentional or unintentional.
And I find it very frustrating when there's so much information, you have nothing to ask the seller.
Right, yeah.
And the only thing you really have to say is, I want it, and I do want it, but I can't make the decision. I haven't made up my mind, but I want to talk to the seller to let them know I'm interested, kind of get in line. But like, what do you say when all the information's on there? What do you talk to them about?
Yeah, for sure. Because there's, in a buying and selling process, there's some back and forth that inevitably has to happen. And, you don't just want to come out and say, I'll take it as a buyer, because in the previous episode about getting a deal, that's a no-no,
Yes.
So at some level, you need to leave a little bit of mystery there for them to fill in the blanks in their own head.
Though I did want to tell a story I forgot about on that last one. My father-in-law, when we were talking about negotiations, we went and looked at a backhoe. Looked at the backhoe, slaps it on the fender, goes, I'll take it. What's your bottom dollar? And then the dude came down $1,000.
That's awesome.
I was like, what just happened?
How did that even happen?
Yes. I
That's
don't know.
awesome.
I'll take it. What's your bottom dollar? And
Yeah.
then the cake got $1,000 off after that. Like, how does that work?
I don't know.
But so talking about that, as far as, less is more, as far as, if your ad isn't working, delete it, delete your pictures, take different new pictures, try to stage it, put it out in some grass. I always like to take pictures of my stuff next to my pond or my woods. I feel like just pictures in a parking lot or pictures in front of a building don't look good. Don't use pictures just from your phone that are Snapchats. You see people all the time have like Snapchat captions on their pictures.
Oh, I hate that.
Put some effort into it, don't be lazy about it.
Which I'm to the point now on my silver truck. This weekend, I'm going to get new pictures of it, and I'm going to delete the ad for, I don't know, the whole weekend, and then next week.
And if you delete the ad, they can't see that you lowered the price, so they won't beat you up as bad. It might think it's a new deal out there. That's just another option. So you can always, and then another thing as far as not adding information in is, if you get asked the same question over and over and over and over again, you can probably put that in the ad.
Right.
When I was trying to sell my red Jeep, I forgot to put the mileage, how many miles is on it. And dude, for 2 days straight, how many miles, how many miles, how many miles? And then after I told him it was 240,000, I got ghosted. So I was like, okay, I'm putting the mileage in. I didn't leave it out on purpose, but
You just kind of forgot.
Right. I figured if I can get people talking to me, usually if you can get people talking to you, you kind of start building a relationship and stuff, and they start getting invested. But I got tired of getting ghosted, so I put the mileage in there, and, that stopped any BS stuff. A lot of people won't respond to, is this available? But, I would say there's a percentage of time that person is interested.
Yeah, for sure. So that's happened to me 3 times on this truck. I've probably had a dozen. Is this available? The automated, response or whatever. But luckily, Facebook gives you an automated response for the automated message. If they message you, is this available? And you open the message, there's a little button that says, yeah, it's available. You click on that. And then if they choose to respond, then they choose to respond. And 3 times, I've had somebody message me further beyond that. Mm-hmm. I keep getting a lowball offer, like, what's your bottom dollar? What's the lowest you'll take?
Yeah, that's what I hate.
And, I've got 10 grand cash today. Like, well, I'm sorry, that's not going to buy it. I want to have a little bit more.
My least favorite thing is what's your cash money price? Like, how else did you think you were paying for this?
Yeah.
I had one guy, I forgot what I was selling. He goes, what's your cash price? And I actually came down a little bit because I was flexible. And then he goes, "Okay, what's your Venmo? I'll send the money now." Like, that's not cash.
That's definitely not cash.
That's not cash. So
Yeah.
I think I sent you that.
You sent me the screenshot. Yep. Mm-hmm. Like
And-
this, that's not cash. That's not $100 bills.
So side note, being in the sales, I get that sometimes from certain customers. They'll be like, "How much is 2,500 water bottles?" And you'll be like, "They're this much." "Okay, we want 100, but we want the 2,500 price." Like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah, because and I had to explain that to a couple people for your profession, like how much is a whatever it is. Like, it's probably going to be like $75. Well, what do you mean? Well, they have to buy a case of whatever, and then there's a $25 setup fee, and there's a $15 art fee, and then you have the price of the thing, and then there's the embroidery fee. So, it's $60 for one, or it's $75 for 20 of them. Like,
Yeah.
take your pick.
Yeah, and I literally got to a point one time I sent a customer a breakdown of fixed cost versus variable cost.
And they still don't understand.
Yeah, well, I know economics. I understand the difference. Like, well, that's what we're dealing with here. And then they kind of get sour with you. But anyway, so what's next here? Same question. I would say, too, if you're not getting hits on your item, especially if you get into a situation where you're wanting to move it and you price it cheap, a lot of people will view that price as it's a lower quality or there's something wrong with it.
Yeah, so do not price your stuff too low.
Don't price it too low. I was selling my F-250 or the V10 back in 2012 when gas was, $4 a gallon or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted it gone. And it's a real nice truck, Lariat leather.
Which I'd like $4 gas right now. Again.
Yeah, well, $4 goes a lot less further than it did back then.
Right.
$4 gas was way more expensive then than it is now.
True.
So
Anyway.
I priced it probably $2,500 under market value because I was getting married. I was buying a house. I wanted it gone. And I would say every person that didn't ask if it was a diesel, if the person, I got a lot of, is this diesel? Is this diesel? No, it says right in the ad, V10 gas. But every other person said the first thing they would say is, "What's wrong with it?"
Because they assumed, being the low price, that there had to be an issue.
Yes.
Because it was a beautiful truck.
Yes.
So when you see a low price vehicle and you see exterior wise, it looks beautiful. Like, oh, well, there's got to be
Something wrong with it. And
Yeah.
I realized that as a thing because when I was looking for that V10, I found a 4-door, 4-wheel drive crew cab dually Chevy pickup that had a 6.5 in it with a 5-speed, and it was a really good deal. And I was like, I'm not buying a $4,500 truck. Like, I need something reliable.
right.
And that truck may have been just fine, but I think the V10 was more money and had more miles on it, but I bought it because it was more money, so it's got to be a nicer truck.
So I learned that lesson personally when I had my SRT10 Viper truck. I had a 2005 quad cab Viper truck, and I had it for like 2 years, and that was one of the ones I got pulled over in a couple times. And I was time to move on. It had a little bit, it was getting to that point where if I drove it anymore, I'd really start appreciating the value. I had my fun with it. It was trying to get something else, and I regret it now. I wish I still had it, but I listed it for $18,500 because I paid $20,000 for it, and I felt like I had $1,500 worth of fun, and I was willing to take that hit on it. And I didn't. If I got one message, I'd be surprised. But I had it for sale for like a month, and couldn't get anybody to bite on it. Couldn't get anybody even interested in it to even lowball me, because I'd have probably took $17,500 for it. And I got fed up with it, and we had the discussion about it's priced too low. Like basically get online and see what other ones are selling for, and go a little bit above the middle. So like if they're anywhere from, like right now, like my truck, they're anywhere from $10,000 to $16,000. So I listed it for $14,750. And I've come down since then trying to get it moved, but you can always lower your price. You can never raise it. So I took it off for about 3 weeks. I had it detailed. Kyle detailed it for me. And then I paid Brock Holste, I think like $50. And he's got like a super fancy camera. He's a really good photographer and does the edits and stuff. And we went around and, like we were saying earlier, don't just take pictures in a parking lot. I think we went to like a railroad trestle, and we went to like the boat ramp at Lake Sarah, and we went to like the old state police, the little shooting range thing they have over in Hartville, and just like some kind of burnt out warehouses and stuff, and just took these, I mean, honestly awesome pictures of it. And I reposted it for 21,000 and had like 15 or 16 messages right away. I mean, within a couple weeks. And I think within 2 weeks, I had a guy come and pay me 20 grand cash for it. And I mean, I had it listed for 1,500 less than I ended up taking for it after I raised the price by $4 grand.
Right.
You know?
Well, on my V10, I had it listed for $5,000. I paid $75 for it, I think.
Yep.
And I raised the price to $7,500 and sold it for like $6,000.
Yeah. Which
is
is more
like the next day.
Yeah.
And actually, I sold that to a farmer over by Vandalia.
Do you still have it?
Yeah, he came in Jedco like 6 months ago and was looking for me because that was when I was doing the metal thing, so I wasn't there.
Yep.
And he told my dad to thank me for that truck because it's been the best truck he's ever owned.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yep. I'm trying to think if I've ever had somebody after the fact a long ways thank me for selling him something. I'm sure I have, at some point in time, but I've had a lot of people directly after the fact, but never, 4 or 5 years later, which probably most of them don't even have the vehicle or whatever anymore anyway. So
what else we got here? Well, hey, how do you react to will you hold it?
So it depends. It depends a lot on the item, and it depends a lot on my interaction with the particular individual. If I've got and my interest in the item. So if I've got a million people blowing up my phone, I'm going to be a lot less apt to hold it for somebody than if I've got only a couple people. And I've got, when I'm selling something a lot smaller, like not even vehicles, like I've got a Jeep bumper and some wheels and tires and just random shit for sale. It depends on the person, and it depends on the engagement I've had. So it basically, I will hold it as, I would lean more towards holding it than not holding it. It's just more of a case-by-case thing. So like my pickup truck, I'll probably not hold it. The first guy here with cash, he gets it. On the wheels and tires I was selling, it was kind of the same deal. I wanted them gone. I wanted them the hell out of my way, and I was willing to take less money than I was asking for them. And I had a couple people message me on them and like wanted to know offset, and it was incredibly boomer of me, but I told the guy, I don't know how to measure for offset. I can Google it, but I'm not really interested. Like, I know what offset is, but I'm 32 years old. I'm not a stance guy. I can tell you the rim width and the back spacing. You can figure it out from there if it'll work for your application. And that guy was like, well, can you hold it until next weekend till I can get here? And then the very next day I had a guy that said, if you'll take 150, I'll be there tonight. Well, guess who got him? The guy with $150. And then the 15s that I sold, this was all recently when I cleaned out the storage unit. It was a friend of mine said, hey, I want them, and I can't get there till whenever. And if I know you, I'll absolutely hold it for you because, I'm going to do a buddy a favor more than just some random guy on Facebook, because in the past, in my younger years, especially something that's a little bit more value, I'll hold it and the guy doesn't show up. And then you've already pissed off 2 or 3 people that, like, I've already got a guy coming for it. Well, the guy that said he's coming didn't come, and you could have had it sold 3 times. So it's almost like a karma thing. Like I said, if it's some like young thug or something, he's got a bunch of, crappy, gang sign pictures on his profile or whatever, be less apt to than, a nice older guy or something like that. And like I said, it's like karma. When I bought my pickup truck, that convertible D50, that guy told me, I said, I'm willing to send you money to hold it. And he said, nope, I'm a man of my word. If you say you're coming, I trust that you're a man of your word. I believe you'll come. And that really was it meant a lot to me, because I've had tons of people say, hey, I'll be there, I'll come to get it, and they never show up. Like, I've had 3 people on my truck say, I'm going to come tonight or whatever, and then just, I got busy, or don't even, just ghost me. And then I've had a couple guys come and look at it like, yeah, I'm going to go to the bank tomorrow and I'll be back. And they haven't been back. So just one of those things. What do you say when someone asks if you'll hold it?
I think it's a depends thing. I'll preface this conversation. I want to go back to like the cash money part. If someone lowballs you and you're willing to take it, I always preface the yes, I'll do that deal with how long would it be before you could get it?
Okay.
Because I've had several times, will you take, asking 150, will you take 100? Yes, I will. Okay, I'll be there in 3 weeks. And then when you sell to somebody else, they're like, we made a deal. Like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah. So if you're not going to hold it, always be straight up with the guy.
Yeah, and even if you're going to hold it, or even if it's not a hold situation, even if you're going to take a lower price, always ask how long until you're going to come get it.
Sure.
So my big thing too is if I can talk to the person on the phone, or if they're willing to put a deposit down.
How do you take your deposits?
Just PayPal, Venmo, however. I usually on bigger stuff try to get like 10%. Smaller stuff, maybe half or the full amount.
Okay.
So that would be where I'm at there. It just all kind of depends, like you said, the vibe I'm getting. I had just recently, I'm trying to sell a 3.8 out of a Jeep Wrangler.
Yep.
I had a guy message me, I will 100% take this. I said, okay, well, I need a deposit. Okay, I'll have the money for the deposit in a week. I'll have the rest of the money for the motor in 3 weeks. So a week comes around. This guy messaged me every day almost.
Well, that's
communication
good.
Was there.
That's good.
So it always, I want it. I want this motor. I'll be there. And, I said, what about your deposit? I'll have the money in a week. I'll be there in 3 weeks. And this went on for 2 months.
Jesus.
But he was still communicating a lot. So finally he's like, do you still have this? Like, I noticed it's still listed for sale. I told you I wanted it. I said, yes, I still have it. I said, I will not hold it until you give me a deposit. And he goes, well, does it have any knocks? Does it burn any oil? I said, no. You told me no less than 10 times you're taking this. Like, we're past this point. Like, I'm holding this for you. This motor is yours. And he goes, well, I'm putting this in my vehicle. I need to know if it's good. And I said, if you want something with a guarantee, buy a reman. He says, well, I don't have the money for a reman. Boom, blocked in. Done with it.
Done with him. Okay.
So.
Do you still have the motor?
I still have the motor. But don't tell me you're going to take it 10 times and then be a month past your date, you're going to take it and then start trying to haggle with me.
Yeah.
That's not how it happens.
So that happens from time to time. I got a Snapchat the other day from a customer that was selling something on Facebook, and he sent me a screenshot or whatever, and I'm trying to find it right now. But basically, he answered a question, and the guy looking to buy it asked him something stupid, and he was like, nope, you're blocked. I don't deal with stupid questions or something like that. And I'm like, man, I can put up with a lot of stupid questions if you're going to pay me. So,
and I would, this isn't on my list, but this is something I thought of once or twice. I've had where people are almost insulting with offers and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So the last one was a Jeep transmission. Had it listed for $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Guy says, are you firm on price? I said, no, I'm a little flexible, which I was. would you take $300? And I found that insanely insulting because I'd already sold a Jeep transmission just like it for $1,000.
Yep.
And the girl sold it to a young lady in Tennessee or whatever, and she told me it was the cheapest one she found.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, no, I won't take that. And then where do you go? Well, what would you take? Well, then that's kind of like an extreme anchor. Then they're automatically going to get your best price.
Yep.
So I just said, well, I'm just not that flexible. Well, I ended up selling it to him for basically full price.
Yeah.
And so I would just say if someone's like insulting or something, just try to hide your feelings, suppress them and just do business and negotiate, because I ended up selling that transmission for essentially what I wanted out of it.
So I have one here, Oscar, on my truck. Only message says, 10,000, I'll go for it today. And I said, sorry, can't take that. And he said, well, 10's all I have. I'm find some more money. So that was one. And then I had another guy, is there anything wrong with it? Which in my ad, it says a couple minor issues, blah, blah, blah. And I have a copy and paste, like there's a crack in the windshield, some dings and scrapes, his 10-year-old truck, get used to it. Any rust, there's a tiny little bit, blah, blah, blah. What's the lowest you'd take? And I told him I bought $1 and said, I appreciate the info. I'll thank you and get back with you. Then a ton of the, is this available? And then I just do the canned response. Yeah, that's available or whatever. And they don't ever message me back. Sure, it was just a slip of the finger or whatever. And then, is this still available? What's wrong with it? 10K question mark. Can't go that low. Sorry, K. So it happens a lot. People, come up with a low ball offer, and I try not to be offended. I had a guy offer me a $4,000 motorcycle, which that's wholesale. I don't know what retail is, probably closer to $6,000. But to him, it's worth his whole freaking life as a 2006 Harley Davidson. Mm-hmm. And nothing against Harley people, but some of them are.
I get Harley trade offers all the time on stuff.
So it's going into winter. And here's my thing. It's going into winter. If you're the one offering a trade, then you have to be willing to take a hit on your offer, because I didn't ask you for your trade. I said I'm open to trades, not that I'm looking to trade. So if you're going to trade me something, it's got to be worth more than what mine's worth, or I'm going to need cash on top. That's just how trades work. That's how, in my mind, that's how they're always supposed to work. And so a guy messaged me, would you be interested in a bike? I said, sure. Tell me more about the bike. He tells me the details. I got a good friend who works at the Harley barn who buys and sells motorcycles. He told me it's a $4,000 to $5,000 motorcycle at best at wholesale. And so that's kind of what I based it off of. And I asked him, how much cash you putting on top? And he says, nothing, just the bike. And I didn't even message him back. Like, I'm not going to insult your bike and tell you that it's only, I KBB'd it or whatever. The NADA on it was like $7,000 at full retail maybe. And, this guy, I'm sure he was in love with it. It was his baby or whatever. I'm not going to insult him and tell him that his bike's only worth half of what he thinks it's worth. But I just didn't even respond, and he never messaged me back, and I never messaged him back. So
yeah, and people, I've noticed the bike guys get kind of shitty with you. Well, why don't you want it? I said, I don't even have.
Well, why don't you want it? Why are you trying to trade?
Exactly. Well, I don't even have a motorcycle license, dude. Well, you should get one. Motorcycles are awesome. And they're just like, well, why don't you want this? And my wife wouldn't let me have it. I just don't want it, but I'm trying to be nice. Well, my wife, I'd get a new wife. Like, really?
You're the one trying to get rid of your motorcycle.
Even there for a while, I put no motorcycles.
Yeah.
In my ad, because when you're trying to sell a Jeep, dude, motorcycle trade offers are thick.
And it's
Have you noticed that or no?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And four-wheelers and just all kind of shit. And it basically comes down to these guys have a motorcycle and it's coming into winter. They probably don't have a place to store it, and they're thinking, I probably should get rid of this before winter time. Well, bad news. It's just like a boat. The best time to buy it is the worst time to sell it, and that's right now. So, like I said, you're coming at me with a trade offer. You better be willing to pony up some extra cash or have a trade offer that's worth more than what I'm trying to sell. Because two in the hand or one in the hand, two in the bush, whatever, like I would rather have 10,000 cash than a $12,000 motorcycle.
Right.
In the middle of winter. So
my next one is follow up with people. I don't necessarily maybe use this as much as I should, but I was looking to buy a camper shell for my Ford Ranger. And I messaged the guy, yeah, I probably want it. I'll get a hold of you when I can get it. And then I just got lazy, didn't want to go get it, blah, blah, blah. Well, the guy...
Now, this is you as a buyer?
This is me as a buyer. The guy, after 2 or 3 days, I didn't tell him I'd take it. I don't really do that. But, I'd message him. I was interested. And I was pretty much over it. Like, I don't want to mess with it. I don't really need a camper shell. Well, he messaged me and was like, hey, like, do you still want this? Just kind of following up. We'd talked. You seem interested. And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll take it. And I think you could probably use that too. If someone's talking to you a bunch, just follow up with them and maybe reignite that spark. And that works in sales too. I've got a lot of people you send a quote to and don't hear from for 3 weeks. And then you just follow up with them. Yeah, I need to get them ordered. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So.
We all get busy.
Yes. So my biggest number one thing about selling stuff, my biggest hint, and Cody says Sam is not good at this.
Okay.
So is be available.
Okay.
I will leave my kids' I left Easter one year to sell my wife's car. I will leave my kids' birthday to sell something. I am on, if I'm selling something and you're wanting to buy it, I am on your schedule. I will take off work. I'll do anything. And Cody always makes a joke. Sam's like, oh, you're interested in it? I'm available 3 Sundays from now from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's probably not that bad, but that's like not, Cody's joke.
But, I mean, you guys can eat shit because you guys work in town. And Cody's even worse than you. He doesn't even go to work most days. And he has the flexible schedule. If a guy messages me at 11 a.m. on Monday and says, I'll take this. Can you meet me at noon? Like, well, I'm an hour and a half from town for work. No, I can't. And that makes me a bad seller because I can't just instantly teleport an hour and a half away from where I am in less than an hour.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, that's my excuse.
Well, I've got a little bit more flexible schedule.
You can argue that, I mean, if I'm, if it's a Saturday and I'm busy doing something like fun or whatever, like if I'm out car cruising on a Saturday, like if we're out in the car and I'm down at, I don't know, Verina maybe, just 30 minutes away, and a guy's like, are you available this afternoon? Like, no, I'm having too much fun cruising my car. Like, I will admit to being guilty of that. But most of the time, it's happened a few times on, like, this bumper I'm selling and, like, the truck I'm selling. Like, can you meet me today? Can you meet me right now? No, I have a job. Like, you and Boss Man excluded, who can just leave work to go sell something? Not many people. Not many people who draw a paycheck.
I think that's where the gotcha is. People who draw paychecks. There's probably a lot of people sitting at home maybe trying to sell stuff. I don't know.
Or the people sitting at home trying to buy stuff is what it is. Like, how do you expect me at 2 o'clock on a Thursday to meet you to sell something? I don't know. But anyway, that's not a tip. That's just a rant. But
I was hoping to get them going a little bit better.
Yeah. Well,
kind of struck a nerve there.
Maybe a little bit. But anyway, try to be available as best you can. But it goes down to the desperate thing. Like, I don't want to seem too desperate to sell it because then maybe they're going to try and lowball me too much.
Fair enough.
And that might be a total, misinterpretation of it by me. But I don't know, like, it's also in the verbiage too. Like, when can you meet? Like, well, what works best for you? Not saying that I'll do anything that's best for you, but
right.
Now we can start working our way down to a meeting time, maybe.
What about meeting halfway?
Like to drive?
Yeah,
So that it would depend. It would depend on
kind of like holding it.
Yeah, so I did this with the Corvette. I traded the MJ for the Corvette, and he thought he was screwing me, and I thought
You were
that I
screwing
was
him.
screwing him. But turns out we were screwing each other. So, but I mean, I was willing to do that at that point in time. I think that's really the only time I've met halfway. Maybe I should be more flexible on this, but it would have to be a really, really good deal for me. Like, and maybe this is bougie as hell of me to say, but like if I'm selling a $200 Jeep bumper or whatever, I'm not driving a fucking Matt Tune to give it to you. Like if you want it, you can drive to Effingham to get it. Like I'm not meeting you. Like it's going to cost me $50 in gas to screw around by the time it's all said and done to drive to Matt Tune. Like it's not like my time and my gas is worth a lot more than nothing. So I'm not going to meet you for that. But like if I had a guy, and I've offered this, I've never actually done it. I've offered it plenty of times. If I had a guy, say in Chicago, that wanted my truck and wanted me to meet him in Champaign, I'd say send me a $500 non-refundable deposit. I'll be there whenever we can meet.
Right,
I would do that in a heartbeat. To make 12 grand, I'm there. But to make $100, it's not worth my time.
Yeah, I think it depends on the amount. Like say I delivered my M1009
Yep.
just to make the deal happen. I sold a tractor to a guy up by Shelbyville. He actually came to me, showed up with a newer Jeep Grand Cherokee with a little like Rural King trailer.
Nice.
And it was a bigger tractor with a loader and stuff. And he's like, yeah, I want it, but
I can't get it
I
home.
don't think I can tow this home with this. I really did not expect this to be this big. And
Didn't do his research.
I said, and he was the first guy that came and looked at it.
Yep.
I said, whatever, loser. Like, he's like, well, I guess I'll have to find a truck and see if I can borrow a trailer. Like, get out of my face.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, 2 months goes by, I haven't sold this tractor. I'm like,
Damn it.
like nobody's even came and looked at it. So I messaged the guy, and actually his wife was messaging me. I was like, hey, are you still interested in this? Actually, yeah, we are. That kind of goes back to follow up.
Follow up.
Actually, we are, but we just have no way to get it home. And I said, how about this? How about I'll deliver it? And why would you do that? I said, well, you guys are talking about having to rent a truck and rent a trailer. I said, that's just a lot of hassle. I've got a truck and a trailer. You're 40 minutes away. I'll just bring it to you. Older retired couple.
I'll come to you.
And, I made money on that deal, so it wasn't a big deal. And I brought it up there, and dude, they gave our kids gifts and like
Jeez.
light up cups and stuff. I think she was maybe a daycare person or something, maybe a teacher, and like invited us in, gave us cookies, and like they were so appreciative we brought that up there. But like I knew the guy wasn't a BSer. Like I knew
You had met him in person.
I'd met him in person. It wasn't a money issue. Like they literally is just a logistics issue. And being a salesman, you're a problem solver. So your problem is you can't get it home. I can get it home for you. He maybe even gave me a little extra money. I'm not sure, maybe 56. Oh, he gave me $100 extra.
Which Boss Man is the king of meeting someone halfway or delivering. He's all the time.
Just got to make it happen. WIT, whatever it takes. That's Cody's mantra.
Whatever it takes, just make it happen. There's a new. I would like to get the book. They were talking about it on the Ramsey show. Outrageous. Like not hospitality, but like outrageous customer service or something like that. And if you know this, don't flame me or whatever. But there's a restaurant in New York City that's been like number one in all of forever in the last like however many years of all the food magazines and everything, and not because of any particular one thing on the menu. It's how they treat their customers. And he talks about how like, basically, and it is outrageous. I mean, the type of shit he does. Like there was a really big customer or something that was just made the comment about how he had never he'd been in New York for 3 weeks and he hasn't had a hot dog from a hot dog cart, which, I mean, he's from out of the country or whatever. And it was just something that he had thought about and had built up in his mind. So the restaurant went outside, found a hot dog cart, bought him a hot dog and brought it to him in the restaurant and made the guy's dreams come true. And then there was another one where the couple's honeymoon or whatever got canceled or whatever, so they turned their banquet room into a beach, hauled in 10 tons of sand or whatever and turned it into a beach, and just all this completely outrageous things that he did. And he said, the customer experience is only partially what your product is. What they experience is what they remember, not necessarily the product is their experience. And he talked about how he bought an apartment one time, and basically the realtor or whatever leaves a bottle of champagne in the fridge or whatever. Congratulations, you're I don't even freaking drink. This is so impersonal. If I was running the show, if I was the realtor, I would have remembered that my wife mentioned that when she walked into the living room, she thought this would be a beautiful place to do yoga. And that would have been in my mind. This is what my book's about. It'd been in my mind. And then I would have put a candle and a yoga mat in the corner where she said this would be beautiful. And it would have cost me $20, cheaper than that bottle of wine or whatever. And it would have made a lasting impression on my customer. He listens, he understands, and he knows what I'm about. And, that's where that's the book I'd like to read about, outrageous customer satisfaction.
There's another book similar to that called the Giftology, The Art of Corporate Gift Giving.
Okay, that seems like something of promotional products.
They
professional
hate promotional products.
Oh,
hate them.
Oh, really?
Absolutely hate them. So
because it's all cookie cutter shit.
Because it's not personal.
Fair enough.
So you don't give someone something with your business's name on them. You give them something with their name on it. And they will remember you because of that.
Okay.
So, yes, Giftology.
We need to have a short story long book club.
Yes.
And talk about books you should read. Okay, sidebar. Is an audio book considered reading a book? When you say, have you read the book about blah, blah, blah?
I will always say no, but I've listened to it.
Okay.
I always say, I've listened to that book.
Have you read The Total Money Makeover?
No.
No, but I've listened to it.
No.
You haven't even listened to it?
No.
Oh, well, I've listened to it. Anyway.
My wife, when we got on Dave Ramsey, my wife read it, and she's like...
Gave you the Cliff Notes.
She gave me the Cliff Notes, and I had lived my life like that, essentially, up until that point, so I was just on board, yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Anyway, I was thinking about that today because I got that audiobook gift card in the mail, and I have Everyday Millionaires on my bookshelf.
I have listened to that one.
And I've listened to it. And I bought The Proximity Principle, and I read it on the airplane to and from Vegas.
Okay.
And I was just thinking to myself, I have both these books. I've got both of them in my bedroom, and I'm thinking, well, I've physically read this one, but I've listened. This one was read to me. Mm-hmm. So I just total off tangent thing, but is listening to a book still considered reading it? Because Dave says in my interview, I'll ask, what's the last 3 books you read? And so I'm thinking, if I'm ever interviewed, what's the last 3 books you read? Well, I haven't read shit. I've listened to books, but I don't know if that counts or not.
I mean, as long as you get the same thing out of it. I do read on airplanes just because of no internet, and I'm not fancy enough to download books beforehand and stuff like that. But
I don't fly enough to really get enough reading done.
Right. Just when I went to Vegas every year, I'd read a book. I read... There's one about an engineer at GM. I read Big Sid Svengotti. I don't know if I ever told you about that, but I guess in Europe there's a Vincent and a Bucati or something, motorcycles. And they got into the one handle's really good, but the other one's got more power. So it's a book about how this dad and his son put a put the motor from one in the chassis of another, and they're
Wow.
like world famous. And they go back to talking about, the engineers, how they used to, test the bikes and all this. My grandma gave it to me for Christmas on Christmas Eve, and I stayed up. I started reading it at her house Christmas Eve, and I stayed up till I finished the book.
Damn. Okay.
It was
Must
that
have been a good book.
It was a good book.
All right. Anyway, what were we talking about?
So selling stuff on Marketplace.
Oh, yeah.
I've got two more cliffs here.
Okay.
I would say don't discount parking your stuff alongside the road for sale.
Okay.
I usually don't on vehicles just because, who buys anything off the side of the road? But
Boomers.
I've bought tractors off the side of the road. I put my red Jeep for sale along the side of the road and got tons of interest from it. I didn't sell it off the side of the road, but I did get a lot of phone calls, a lot of text. So I would say if it's for sale, it's definitely not going to hurt for it to be sitting somewhere with a for sale sign on it, I would say.
One thing you said to me before we started this podcast, mine is in my driveway for sale with the for sale sign in the windshield. I had it parked for a couple weeks at the Snap-on building with the for sale sign in the windshield. Just because you drive it, it's easy just to throw it on the rearview mirror and walk out. You told me I needed to put it on the side windows because you see a lot more signage driving past it on the side window in the windshield. So now I'm wondering if I shouldn't redo my ad and put it parked on Route 40 in front of the Snap-on building with for sale signs in the side windows and see what that gets me.
Report back.
Because
I know your truck's for sale, but when I drive by, you only see the for sale sign for a split second.
So one thing maybe psychologically as a buyer, they see it on the side of the road and they think, oh man, this is a deal because it's not on the internet. It's for
That's
sale
possible.
with a for sale sign. So then they're more likely to stop and get information. I've stopped and got phone numbers off of all kind of shit off the side of the road. If I see something that any of my friends is interested in, if I see a golf cart or a tractor, I text the info to Cody about the golf cart. I text Dozer the info about the tractor. I'll text if it's a Jeep I'm interested, or maybe Randy Dozenbrock, or just because I have that thought, oh, this is on the side of the road. This is no one knows about this except for whoever drives by.
Right.
This could be a deal. Doesn't always happen that way, but that's what my brain immediately goes to.
So my very last one is: do you have any stories on selling stuff?
Oh
Anything
my gosh!
that sticks out. I'll go first or do you have one?
Oh, I got one, but you can go first.
So my biggest one is when I was selling my F-250 7.3 OBS Ford. I had a guy from Champaign say, I want to meet you. I want to look at this truck. I want to meet at noon. So I took off work, went home, sat there for 2 hours. Guy ghosted me. Okay. So I went back to work. He messaged me an hour or two later, said, hey, I got called into work. I'm a firefighter. I apologize. I got called into work as an emergency. Mm-hmm. I want to come tomorrow and look at it, or whatever, a week later. Okay, want to do it at noon. So take off work, go home, meet the guy, go home, wait for the guy, never shows up. Message him, no answer. Message him, no answer. Go back to work. He messages me, hey, I got called into work again. I'm really, really sorry. Can I meet you in another week?
I bet you are. I bet you're sorry.
And I said, okay. He sounded super interested. I said, okay. He talked to me a couple times. Can I meet you at noon? So took off work, went home, sat there for 2 hours. I probably didn't sit there for 2 hours the last time. Sat there for 20 minutes. He didn't show up, didn't answer the phone. Went back to work. Guy messages me the next day. Hey, I was actually on the way. My phone died. I didn't have a charger, and I couldn't use the GPS to get to your house.
Oh, God.
So I had to turn around and go home.
So at this point, what's your thoughts?
Oh, at this point, I'm livid. And I tell the guy about himself, I said, I've took off work 3 days. No, I really want. I said, I would never sell this truck to you, ever, and blocked him. So
that was the end of the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just my selling story that sticks out in my mind.
Oh, I thought there was going to be some happy ending, he came in. Okay.
No happy ending. One other one is there's a guy from Neoga. was looking for a John Deere 316. They only made the John Deere 316 garden tractor 1 year. So it was a 317, but the 317 has a 2-cylinder engine in it. The 316 had a 1-cylinder engine in it.
What's the one Harrison's selling?
The guy in Greenup?
Yeah.
It's a 210 or something.
Junk.
It's just, I mean, not junk. People like them. It's just not my style.
Okay.
It's more of an entry-level deal. They're
Anyway.
nice enough tractors.
I didn't buy it because Amanda needs one. So after this podcast,
Oh, that one would be fine if you wanted to use it.
well, we need to have a garden tractor conversation / lawnmower conversation because that one's gearbox. It's not hydro.
Correct.
She wants hydro.
Well.
Anyway, continue.
So he wants a 316. I had a 317. I explained to him, I said, it's the exact same tractor, but it's a 2-cylinder engine instead of 1-cylinder engine. The 2-cylinder engine is 17 horse. The 1-cylinder engine is 16 horse. Well, the reason they went with the 1-cylinder engine is because the 2-cylinder engine sucks so bad.
Yeah.
They had pressurized oil, but it was a 5 psi oil pressure system. So it used pressurized oil and splash at the same time.
That sounds super handy,
Anytime you'd side hill it, it'd blow the engine.
which is probably
So-
a common thing
if you,
for
if
lawnmowers.
you had it was a Kohler KT17 was the engine.
Okay.
And actually that's why John Deere went to the Onins in the 80s is because John Deere got such a bad name from that engine.
Okay.
So 5 psi oil pressure, if you'd side hill it, it'd blow up. And some guys had them for years. If you had a flat yard, it'd run for years.
Right.
So they went with the 316, which was 1 year. I'm getting into a tangent here, bad, real bad. I like garden tractors, if you can't tell. Well, this guy from Neoga wants one. I have a 317. Comes, drives it, gets on it, does a circle, goes, nope, don't like it. Gets in his truck and leaves.
Okay.
Okay, whatever. So 2 or 3 months goes by and I have a 316, which they made another 316 in the 80s. That was a twin cylinder. It's different. It's not the same 316. You got the 316 single cylinder and it's called a closed back. And you've got a 316 twin cylinder in the 80s that's considered an open back.
Okay.
So I had a late 80s open back twin cylinder 316.
Which is not probably as desirable as the closed back, I'm guessing.
It's a nice tractor. It's basically a 318 without power steering. So
I should have known.
yeah, idiot, stupid idiot. Just like the 330 is the 332 without power steering.
Okay.
So and some other things, but power steering being your main thing. So he comes, gets on
Same
it.
guy.
Same guy. Hey, I seen you had 316. I said, just to warn you, this is not the 316 you think. Well, I want to come look at it. Gets out of his wife is the one who talks to me. He never talks to me. His wife talks to me.
Okay.
Which that's like Cody's pet peeve. You know what I mean? Like, just talk to me direct.
Oh, yeah. No middleman.
So she's super nice lady. If she's listening, she's probably not. So he would show up, get out of his truck, get on the tractor, fire it up, do a circle, get off, said, nope, don't like it, get in his truck and leave. Did that twice.
Did you ever ask him what is it that you don't like? When he does a circle, is there something he's looking for that he doesn't like? Or
I don't know. Well, it just isn't the same is what he would say. Because I think, well, what,
the same as what?
Really?
Something you're used
he
to?
had
or?
2 316s already and they were wore out. And he wanted a 316. The old style 316. They only made them in 1978. So, I mean, they're out there, but good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Okay.
So I don't blame him for not buying the 317. He had hills and stuff to mow on. It had probably blown up immediately.
Right.
But the 316, the open back 316 would have been more tractor than the other old one.
Okay.
It'd have been a lot nicer.
The one that
tractor.
it'd have been nicer than the one he was after.
Yes.
Okay.
And funny story, I ended up delivering that one to Newton to a guy to make a sale happen.
Different delivery.
Yep.
Okay.
But
This was
it
in
was
the tractor hustling days when you were
yes.
really getting it.
But I showed up to this place in Newton and the grass was waist tall. And I'm like,
Gave that bitch a workout for day one.
Yes, but I just told him, I said, if you're mowing this yard with this tractor, if it dies, don't call me.
Yeah.
And they never called
Lose my number.
me. Yep.
Okay.
So I had another guy sold put a motor on it's a lot of lawnmower talk, put a motor on a zero turn, and he bought the zero turn off of me, worked completely fine. He goes, yeah, I haven't mowed my yard in a year. He said, it's like knee tall. So he leaves, 6 hours later, calls, just, this mower's the biggest piece of junk. You sold me a lemon, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, you just told me you were going home to mow your yard that's knee tall.
Yeah.
I said, there's no warranty. You need to give me my money back. I said, if you bring it back, I'll give you half your money back. And never showed up.
Told him, didn't you?
So what's you got a selling story that sticks out?
Yeah, so I really need guest host Kyle Willenberg for this, but my favorite selling story is my D50.
Oh, yes.
So because it was so unique, hey, let's rewind to another selling tip. If you're going to sell something that is partially unique, join the Facebook pages.
Oh, yes, for that stuff, for the niche.
So like it didn't really work in my favor, but Gary was selling or trying to get rid of that 67 El Camino. Mm-hmm. I joined like 4 El Camino pages just to post this listing in. So every message I got on the car was from one of the pages that it was listed on. But anyway, this D50, like I've said in a previous podcast, was the convertible with the solo cut paint theme and everything. I had that listed a lot of different places, and I got a ton of messages. I mean, people would message me just to talk about the truck, and it was honestly a hell of a lot of fun to just interact with people about the truck. I mean, it was almost like driving it to the gas station, right, and getting the feedback. But I had a lot of people. I only had a couple of people come and look at it, but I had a lot of people interested in it, want to know what I'd take, and message after message after message. But the guy that finally came and bought it, I got a message from an older gentleman, and he was asking me a few questions about it, and he said, can you call me? I said, sure. He gave me his phone number, and I called him, and he was asking me some questions about it, and I could kind of get the vibe that he was wanting to buy us as a daily driver. And I said, here's the deal, man. The top does not hold water. It is not a daily driver. It's not going to work for you, whatever. He says, okay, thanks for your honesty. We're looking for a daily driver, so I don't think anything of it. Couple days later, maybe a week later, another guy messages me, and he starts asking me some questions about it. And then he tells me like his dad had called me, and I said, I've already told your dad that this is not a daily driver. And he's like, well, he's an idiot, doesn't know what he's talking about. I got a daily driver. This is fine. I want the truck. All right, man, no big deal. So it was in the winter. I don't remember, was it spring or was it fall?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Doesn't matter. It was cold, like 25, 30 degrees outside. And this guy gets a hold of me. And he's like, okay. And I'd been completely straightforward with him. Like, there's no top. It's, a convertible. It's not a daily driver. So I just want it as a toy. That's fine, man. Your money's just as green as anybody else's. Like, if you want to buy it, that's fine. So he shows up in a Nissan Frontier pickup truck, and it's cold. It's me and Kyle are out in the garage, and we're working on my GTX, and he comes in and he's like, oh man, and starts talking about the GTX. Me like, dude, like, don't worry about my car. You're here to buy this truck. And he's like, oh man, I had a car just like this. Like, yeah, you and everybody else, So he looks at the truck and he's in love with it. I gotta have it. And I'm thinking like, and this truck's outside running. I'm thinking, man, how are you getting this truck home? Like, you got another trailer coming or what? Well, he rented the truck from Enterprise, and he obviously had it for a few weeks because it was completely full of shit. And he's like, I'm going to drive it home to St. Louis. And me and Kyle look at each other like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. And he's like, no, I'm going to just drive it home. I was like, well, what are you going to do with your truck? Oh, it's a rental. I'm like, what? Like, this does not make any sense. And he's like, yeah, it's Enterprise. Is there an Enterprise around here? Like, didn't even look before he
Right.
came to Epicamp. Like, is there an Enterprise around here? Well, luckily there's one literally 6 blocks from my house. And he's like, okay, give me directions. I'll go drop the truck back off there, and then I'll walk back here. I'm like, dude, it's 25. Like, I'll give you a ride. Like, don't worry about it. And so he's like, all right, cool. So he's cleaning all the shit out of this Nissan. And I mean, he fills my driveway up with shit. I mean, absolutely fills it. Like, just bags and boxes and just random stuff. Like, this dude was living in this truck. Like, me and Kyle are just looking at each other like, what the fuck is going on? We give him, we meet him at Enterprise, and it takes him like 20 minutes to put the keys in the drop box. I'm just convinced as shit this truck is stolen. It had like Pennsylvania plates on it, which I know rental vehicles have weird plates from different states and stuff, but I was like, man, I don't know, this is weird as shit. I was so glad Kyle was there to share in the experience with me. He's like, no one would think I was lying, you know?
Right.
So we pick him up and we bring it back. And we're just stuffing all of his shit in this. And this guy was, I thought he was a crackhead, but everyone else says he was a cokehead just by like the way he acted and stuff. Which I've never been around any cokeheads. I've never really been around crackheads either. Just a term for somebody who's freaking nuts. He's got like a Hawaiian shirt on, and he's just wild. Man, he's just a wild man. And
How old is this guy?
he was probably in his late 30s, early 40s.
Okay.
But acted like he was 17, you know.
Okay.
And he's a contractor in St. Louis.
Sure.
And so he had a like a Moscow Mule cup, and he was drinking. He had like little mini bottles of champagne like you get at a hotel,
Okay.
and Sprite.
Okay.
And he had a huge bag of Dum Dums. And he said he quit smoking. He's got to eat these Dum Dums, and he's drinking champagne and Sprite out of a Moscow Mule cup, and he offered me and Kyle a drink. We're like, no, dude, we're
I'm
good.
good.
We're good, thanks. And so he loads all his shit up in the truck, and we stuffed it, which I had that bed cover, and we like lifted it up and like shoved stuff underneath the bed cover. And he's got like this like the plastic contractor clipboards that like open up and you put shit
So
inside
this
of them.
dude paid you for this truck yet at this point?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
And like we're loading all this shit up, and I'm like, so how are you gonna like? And because we discussed cash, and he's like, well, I think I had come down to $5,500 on the truck, and he's like, well, can I pay you this much in cash and this much in Venmo? And I'm like, dude, I don't Venmo. Like I had one, but I've done like $30 for the transactions. And Kyle's like, no, it's fine. And I was like, okay. And I think it was supposed to be $1,400 in Venmo, and what would be the balance of that? 55, 45, 3,100. That sound whatever. What I can't do math. I'm drunk. Anyway, he gives me this cash. He's like, I got to Venmo you $1,400, and he's like peeling off cash, and he's $20 shy. And he was like, oh, I bought some stuff at Walgreens. Like I'm $20 shy. So he Venmos me, or he's going to Venmo me like $1,420. But then he's like, hey, can I actually Venmo you like this much? And then at the end of the week when I get paid, I have like $50 for gas to get home. And I'm like, me and Kyle are just like this guy's been at my house for an hour. It's like 11 o'clock at night. He said he was going to show up at 10 o'clock. He showed up at 10:30 or whatever. Now it's like past 11. It's like 11:30 now at this point. And I'm just like, dude, whatever. Pay me, get the F out of my garage. Like, I'm done with you.
Right.
And whatever it ended up being, it was, I can't remember now. The details are foggy, but he basically, he shorted me $500. He paid me $5,000 after cash and Venmo, and was going to Venmo me another $500 in the next Friday or whatever when he got paid again, whatever. And everyone was like busting my ass, like, you lost $500. Like, well, I would have taken $4,500 for it, and
Right.
I got $5,000, and I took a gamble on getting another $500. Like, it's gone, it's out of my life, it's whatever. So this dude loads up, and he can't figure out how to get it in reverse. Can't figure out how to turn the headlights on. So I go help him with that. And he's parked in the middle of the road outside my house. I guess he's like Googling how to get back to St. Louis or whatever. But I shut the garage door. I'm like, whatever. And then me and Kyle look around, and the top that's all busted up that doesn't really work is sitting there. And I'm like, oh, shit, he forgot this. So I run out in the middle of the road. He's still there 10 minutes later. I'm like, hey, you might need this. Like, it'd be a good pattern for somebody to make you a new one or whatever. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. Thanks, man. So he finally leaves. Kyle leaves. Like, we're just like, what the F just happened? You know what I mean? So I go inside. We had been dirty from working on the car. So I take a shower. So that like 45 minutes goes by. I take a shower, get into my PJs. I crawl into bed. I'm scrolling Facebook, whatever, messing around on my phone. And I'm just about to roll over and go to sleep. And it's like 12:30. And he messaged me like, hey, man, how do you get the heat to work in this truck? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, the heat worked kind of for me, but I never drove it when it was cooler than 65 degrees out.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. And he's like, man, this heat situation, it's not good. Like, I need to drive this. Like, I'm cold. Like, well, it's wintertime and you're driving a convertible with no top. Like, you're going to be cold. I said, I don't know what to tell you. Put cardboard in front of the radiator, lose my number. I don't shut the hell up, you know?
Yes.
So, he messaged me the next day and he's like, yeah, I got home just fine. I'm going to take it to my mechanic and see what this heat's going to take to fix. Like, whatever. I'm like, when are you going to pay me? You know? And like, for 3 weeks after that, I messaged him like, you going to pay me? And he's like, no, man, I got to keep this $500 to fix the heater in it. And I was like, at this point, I was like, whatever. It's gone. It's done. It's over with. That was the absolute most interesting selling experience I've ever had in my life. And next time I have Kyle on here, we'll have him talk about his side of that equation, because it was just a wild ass night for sure.
Right on. Well, I'm out of points here.
Oh, well, we've been running on long enough for this one. So tell me your craziest selling something story. If you have any tips on how to sell stuff, reach out and drop us a line. And again, share this with somebody you think might enjoy it and help us grow this thing and reach more people with our absolute just ramblings of nothingness.
Yes, and I sure do appreciate the few. I mean, we don't get a lot of views, but I feel like there's a handful of people. There's a dozen people who really do listen to this and appreciate it. And I guess we'll keep doing it for you guys, and the people who do listen and do appreciate it and like it. That's super cool. We appreciate that, and keep writing in, and we'll keep doing whatever. So.
Yep, we enjoy it and really thoroughly enjoy the feedback. So reach out on Facebook or ask ASK shortstory at gmail.com, and we'll read your email aloud on the air. So you guys have a good one, and thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, see you later, guys.